All right, we have an incredible guest with us today on the clock with two-time Big Ten Conference Coach of the Year, Maryland head coach from 2018 to 2023, and now the 33rd head coach at the University of Alabama Crimson Tide. Coach Vaughn, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. Great. Got a scrimmage this afternoon. It's sunny and 75 today, so we're ready to rock.
Love it, love it. We're so excited to have you join the show. I guess for the viewers who don't know you, just give a little bit of background on your journey, kind of how you've made it through the coaching ranks and made your way to Alabama.
Yeah, man. I think everybody's story is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I kind of was a case of the right place, the right time a couple times. So played at Kansas State. I'm a Houston, Texas kid. Originally played at Kansas State for 4 years with Brad Hill, Sean McCann, and a couple different other coaches. And my senior year, I had a guy named Andy Sawyers come in as our hitting coach and really kind of changed the trajectory of not only my career in baseball, but really my life in general. And kind of set me on this path of coaching and what that looked like. And I played pro ball for a couple of years with the White Sox. Knew I didn't have half the talent most of these kids have out there. So played for 2 years and got back into coaching and started at Kansas State as a volunteer. I worked alongside John Sheff at the time. He was the hitting coach there. I was the volunteer. When Coach Sheff got the job out at Maryland, um, offered me a position as a recruiting coordinator and hitting coach. And I was 25. I was very inexperienced, and he gave me an opportunity. So packed up my stuff. My wife and I moved halfway across the country out to Maryland and spent 5 years there as an assistant. Worked alongside some really good people. Jimmy Bellinger, who's now at Clemson, who's probably one of my best friends in the world, and Matt Swope, who's the new head coach there at Maryland. Just got to work with some really great people, and Coach Sheff got a chance to move on and go to Virginia Tech, and I was 29. I was probably not fit for the job at that point, but we had some pretty good years. In 14 and 15, we had some good recruiting classes coming in. So tricked Kevin Anderson into handing me the keys to the program. And I tell you what, that first year it wasn't pretty. We were 24 and 30 and were pretty bad. But they stuck with us and stuck with me there. And 6 years later, 7 years later, we were able to do some pretty special things. And hosting a regional for the first time in school history. 3 straight regional appearances, which hadn't happened in Maryland in a really long time. So had a great experience there and was really happy at Maryland. Wasn't really looking to leave or anything like that. And obviously everything transpired down here at Alabama, and I got a call from Greg Byrne, our athletic director here, and had some great conversations. And my wife and I felt like it was just the right time. Our kids were at the right age. It was the right situation. It was the right group of people, and here we are. Moved down to Tuscaloosa, got the family moved down in August, and we're a couple months into the job and rolling. But that's kind of my stage of a lot of being at the right place at the right time. I was able to work through the ranks fairly quickly, and that had way less to do with me being good at what I do and more with just having the right people around me and people that gave me an opportunity when I probably didn't deserve it. And so I think that's what kind of fuels me every day to kind of prove those guys right.
Yeah, I love that. I think the one thing you really touched on, or a couple things you really touched on. One, you talked about how everybody's journey is different, right? To getting to the different coaching levels. I think that's an important thing to really know. And I think the second thing that I've interviewed a couple of your former players, Sean Burke, Maxwell Costas, for another podcast I do that really focuses on the human side of the game. And one thing they always talked about is how well you created a championship or winning culture. But also cared about the well-being of your players, right? It was caring about the humans before the player. Talk about how you kind of developed that philosophy as a coach and really putting those guys first, even though you all know you're going for the same goal, trying to win a conference championship, trying to get to the College World Series. But what part of you has always like honed in on the human beings?
No, I mean, that's what this is. I think when you
Yeah.
get the head coaching position, man, it's a lot less about maybe the technical teaching of a skill. Like I have Jason Jackson here as an unbelievable pitching coach alongside Mike Morrison. I have Anthony Papio here as our hitting coach. There's really skilled people there. I think as a head coach, your biggest job is basically interacting and managing people.
Mm.
I think that's really what it boils down to. And I think I kind of alluded to him earlier, but but Andy Sawyers, I think, is the reason I am the way I am. I mean, I had some really good coaches throughout my career, back into high school, into college at Kansas State. Um, but the one thing Sawyers did that was something that I will try to never ever lose in my coaching career is he challenged us, he pushed us, he was hard on us at times. Um, but man, that guy believed in you,
Yeah.
and you knew he was in your corner, and you knew if there was he believed you could be something better than you probably even believed you could be, and I think that's what I want to do for these young people, and that's been some of my conversations here. We've been off to a decent start this fall, and we had some of the pitchers sitting around the dugout yesterday. They're like, Coach, what have you done with so and so? What's changed here? What's changed there? I was like, boys, I haven't touched a swing. He's swinging at some better pitches, and more than anything, he just believes he's good now. And I think that's such a powerful thing. Is we're in such a difficult sport. We're a sport built on guys that fail a lot and how you can reframe success. And so to me, this job will always be about people. And I've had some great coaches tell me through my career, especially when I was really young and just getting started, it's like, man, the trophies fade away, but the relationships don't. And that's something that I've really tried to latch on to. And like I said, I think we've got kids all over the map. We've got guys in pro ball. We've got guys, that are serving in the military. We've got guys working in banks and real estate. I mean, we've got every end of the spectrum. But it's been really awesome to kind of maintain a lot of those relationships in a pretty positive way. And I think that's how you just get the most out of people.
Yeah.
I think this game is going to beat you down enough, and we're going to hold the standard. We're going to challenge guys that are too comfortable and are accepting less than their best. But this job, first and foremost, I think has to be about how you can instill belief, confidence, and trust in people. And all the people in my life that are the reason I'm doing this did that for me. And I think that's one thing I've tried to do, for this next generation of players coming through.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, kind of goes back to that. Like, the game ends for everybody at some point, no matter how long you play it. But the relationships that you make and develop kind of last forever. Tyler, I'll turn it over to you. I know you have some questions about the upcoming fall season and things like that.
Yeah, I did want to touch on the fall here because I know you guys faced Auburn. I want to say last week at this point. What have you seen in the team? Like, I know a couple of the arms, like Pierce George is hitting 100. Riley Quick's obviously a flamethrower. What have you seen from the guys, and who's really stood out for you?
Yeah, it's just been a really good fall. I said this the other day. It's been a fun fall for me as a coach because I think last year at Maryland, we had such a veteran team that I kind of went in there and I knew, barring injury, I probably knew every position and what order they were going to hit in the batting order and who was going to start Friday, Saturday, Sunday, save maybe one or two guys. Whereas this year I walk in and there's no secret. I mean, we lost every position player off last year's team, either to the draft, to graduation, and then we lost one to the transfer portal, and so you're rebuilding your offense, and you look on the mound, and obviously we lose a pretty good arm in the transfer portal. That just made a business decision for himself, which I understand, and so you're looking at it saying like, hey man, what is our team going to look like? I mean, I've played SEC teams my whole career. I watch them. I know what the ins and outs look like, and the one thing you don't want to be in the SEC, I can promise, is young and inexperienced. Like, that's not a recipe for success in this league. So, as we enter the fall, that's what we were trying to see. We really believed in the kids we got. We felt like it was a really good mix of young talent and veteran professional hitters and some stuff that I thought we needed there. And we really spent a lot of time trying to make sure we got the right people in here. And I know that sounds cliche and corny when you hear coaches start talking about culture and all this stuff, but in year one, man, that's really important to me that we get the right kids in here, that we get guys that respond to the way we do things. I think that's what's really important is not just collecting talent, but making sure we get talent that believes what we do and believes in the way we coach and cares about the things that we care about. And I think Mo, Pap, and JJ did an incredible job of kind of getting those guys in the summer. So as we went into the fall, that's what we're trying to see is, what does this look like? I'm sitting there writing the lineup last Friday before we played Auburn, and we were playing with some lineups the day before. I'm like, man, I got a few months here to figure out what's the right order to put these guys in. But the fall has been really good. I think obviously you look at both sides, you look at the offense and then on the mound, and I think offensively it's been a really good fall. It's been really good. A lot of learning, a lot of kind of adapting to just the way our day to day goes, and credit these young kids, man. They've been phenomenal at accepting us and taking us in. And some things are probably very similar to what they've been doing. Some things are probably a lot different, but have just kind of dove in hook, line, and sinker. And been some really good stuff. Gage Miller's a kid that we knew was a really good player coming in here, a junior college kid. That's just done nothing but hit since he's been here. He's had a great fall, slugging the baseballs, controlling the strike zone. Ian Petrutz, who I'm super familiar with from my time at Maryland, has been awesome. Been very good. Been probably the best I've ever seen him in this fall. Guy like Will Hodo is a guy that's been here, a guy that's had some success here, but has just had a dynamite fall. Controlling the strike zone, I feel like that guy hasn't swung at a ball all year, I don't think. Just really doing a great job with that. Camden Hayslip, another guy that's a returner with just thunder in his bat. Just to watch him grow from when we got here to kind of where he is now, and starting to see that belief in himself start to show up has been really fun for us. And, then you have a guy like Matt Cassetti, who's been outstanding. He's a returner. He's that guy. What he can do behind the plate is nothing short of special. TJ McCants has come over and had a great fall from Ole Miss. It's been really good. He's played great for us so far. So I think there's a lot of stuff up and down the lineup that I've been really happy with. We've got a young pup in Justin LeBron that I think is going to be good for a lot of years here. Has a real chance to start at shortstop as a freshman for us, which is not an easy thing to do. So that side of the ball is a lot of learning, a lot of adapting to kind of a new style, maybe as far as what we do. And baseball's baseball, so it's nothing these guys haven't heard. And the coaching staff before did a great job as well. But just kind of having these guys buy into us and what we do has been pretty fun. And then on the pitching side, a little bit of it's business as usual. JJ was here last year with these guys and just does an incredible job. I think he's so good at blending this new analytic, new stuff with a little bit of the stuff in pitching that just doesn't change. Attacking hitters, controlling runners, fielding your position, doing all these things and helping them believe that whatever they have is good enough. And it's pretty easy to believe some of that when you have some of the stuff coming out of some of those arms. Pierce George was outstanding. We say it all the time. There's two types of people in this game, those who are humble and those who are about to be. Our guys have heard me say that a lot. And, Pierce has had a lot of success coming in and has to just keep coming, because the second you think you figured this game out, it humbles you very, very quickly. But Pierce has been outstanding. We'll get to see Ben Hess today. It's his first outing for the live scrimmage this afternoon. Hopefully get him an inning against Florida State next week. But Riley Quick's been great. Alton Davis has been great. Some other guys coming along. I tell you, that group of freshman arms, a lot of times you look at them, you just don't know where they're at. Usually it's kind of some stuff, but maybe it takes them a little while to come along. But a guy like Sam Mitchell, guys like Matt Heiberger, Zane Adams, Jansen Kinty, Jonathan Stevens, just some of our young arms that we thought, maybe one or two of those guys help and another couple are maybe a year away. Man, those guys have been outstanding. Aiden Moza he's had a great year last year, went to the Cape, had a great summer. We've kind of lengthened his pitch count out a little bit. Like, he's got a chance to potentially move into a starting role this year. And it's just 4 pitches, man. It's 95 with a really good up and down breaking ball, hard slider, and an elite changeup, and he throws tons of strikes. And he's competitive as it gets. There's a lot of pieces through there that have just continued getting better. And, everybody in this league's good. You can't look. Everybody wants to know. All my friends are, hey, man, how are you guys going to be this year? So, I don't know. I think we play hard. I think we do the right stuff. It's all about can you show up and kind of run through the gauntlet of what the SEC looks like, and can you stay healthy? Those are the two biggest X factors. But I've really enjoyed coaching these guys this fall, and they just keep getting better, which is a lot of fun.
That's awesome, and especially with the amount of firepower you have. You do mention Ben Hess. That was my next question. Was obviously missed last half of the spring this past year because I think it was like a forearm strain. What's the prognosis on him? What's the outlook for him and how he's bounced back from that injury so far?
It's been great. Feels 100% awesome. He's been throwing bullpens. We were having to pull the reins back in the bullpen the other day. The guy and this is not trying to say this, he looks like Roger Clemens. The guy's enormous. He's just a big physical dude. He's competitive on the mound. Been mid-90s in the pen, like it was sitting 92, 93, and all of a sudden he popped a 96. We're like, okay, let's pull that back a little bit. We're not supposed to be that firm yet. But he feels great, and that's all that I really care about. I haven't seen him outside of video, kind of in competitive live, competition. But man, he looks like a big leaguer in the way he goes about his business, not the stuff, just the way he goes about his business. You guys referenced Sean Burke a minute ago. That's what Berkey did. Berkey looked like a big leaguer just in the way he approached the game and the way he approached his work every day. It was just so incredibly professional. And that's what Hess has done. He looks great, feels great. He's going to throw today. We're going to keep him to 15 pitches today. But has had no hiccups. Has felt awesome coming back. Looks like he's back in a good spot. So we'll throw him today. If all's well, he'll throw next Saturday against Florida State. And then we'll probably kind of have just an active rest type situation for him and build him back up. But all things are trending towards him being ready to go for the spring.
Sweet. Perfect. That's great to hear. And then, of course, with the spring, what's the expectations for you guys? You come off a year where you hosted a regional and then went to the Supers against arguably one of the best teams in the recent memory in Wake Forest. What's the outlook looking for you guys in 2024, especially considering this is your first time going from a Big Ten to SEC?
Yeah. I mean, the outlook's never going to be to not win. I think everybody comes in here and it's like, man, we got to get the culture right and we got to do this. That's all no brainers. Like, of course we do. That's a no brainer. The bottom line is this game's still about winning, and I think, we have kind of we call it the mission of Alabama baseball. We talk about a lot of stuff and, coaches will always give you kind of the coach speak about the process and about this. And it has to be about that. I mean, that's what your focus day to day has to be on. But at the end of the day, I can promise you I didn't move my family halfway across the country to just try hard down here. Like we're going to come out and do whatever we can. And I think we have a good group of kids. I think you have to be resilient. You have to be tough. We talk about a neutral mindset here a lot, which is, Trevor Moad is one of my favorite authors. He's recently passed a year or so ago, but did a lot of work with Nick Saban too. And you hear a lot of that stuff when I walk down here, a lot of stuff that you hear come out of Coach's mouth is a lot of stuff that him and Trevor worked through together before Trevor passed. And that's what we talk about. Neutral mindsets. Basically, the past is not a predictor of the future unless you let it, good, bad, or indifferent. And we've got to show up every day. And there's days in this league you're probably going to take it on the chin. And the best of the best show up the next day, and the slate's clean. They know they're prepared. They know they're ready, and they go back to work. And I think that's something our teams at Maryland did a really good job of, particularly the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody talks about, the year that we hosted a regional for the first time in school history, which was special. But, man, we got throttled a couple times. We got beat 19-1 at Illinois on Friday night and had to come back and win the back end of a doubleheader, and we're able to sweep the next 2 days. So I think that's a piece of it. I think in this league, you have to be able to take a punch because it doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, maybe save Tennessee a couple years ago when they got hot and kind of ran through the league. Like, you're going to get smacked at some point, whether it's for a game, whether it's for a weekend. You ain't coming through this thing unscathed. But I think that's the reason these are the teams that win in the postseason. I mean, there's a reason that the national champions come out of the SEC West for the last few years. There's a reason because they're battle tested, they're tough, they're hard, and they can withstand some adversity. And so we're looking forward to getting going with it. It's going to be a bear. I'm by no means naive about what I'm walking into. I sat in a room at Birmingham at the SEC coaches meetings, and you're looking around at some of the best coaches in the country that know how to recruit, win. Dave Van Horn sitting two seats down for me. I don't know if there's a bigger winner in the country than that guy. I mean, sitting next to Tim Corbin, Kevin O'Sullivan. I mean, I'm not naive as far as what we're walking into, but our expectation doesn't change, and we're going to go lay it all out there and see what we got.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I just have a couple more questions kind of before we wrap up. I think the first is you talked about a lot about the importance of having like leadership, right, in the locker room. You could talk about having a lot of young guys. When you're at Maryland, you got to coach Matt Shaw, which that guy, I got to cover him for Prospects Live. Absolute game around the field. You could see the leadership traits just from watching the games. What was it like to coach a guy like that? And how do you, one, take those leaders and give them the role too that they have to lead the team?
Yeah, I mean, there's no secret. I mean, I will hopefully coach for a long time, and I don't think I'll ever coach a kid like Matt Shaw. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy was special, and it was special from the jump. I mean, that guy, when we recruited him, you didn't know what position he was going to play, but you knew he could really, really hit. You knew there was athleticism in there. He was a soccer player in high school, a really good soccer player in high school. So you knew the feet worked. You knew he was athletic. But I just love the mentality. I mean, it was attack the game when he comes in, and he came in, and it was during COVID, and we're doing like these Zoom meetings on whatever, trying to act like we're doing something. It was it was awful. But I remember we went around and it was like, hey, what's your goal for this year? Because we're trying to think of something to talk about in these things. And he's a freshman, and you have a lot of the upperclassmen at the time saying, like, go to a regional, go to this, get back to the postseason. And Matt Shaw literally said in his first meeting on Zoom at Maryland was win a national championship. And he believed that. Like, to his core, that's what he believed. But what separated him is not just the fact that he said that, which took some guts for a young kid on that Zoom, but the fact that his day-to-day work and decisions and everything he did pointed back to that being the central goal of winning a national championship, of doing something never been done in school history before, from the way he ate to the way he slept to the way he trained to the way his mind worked. I mean, that guy is just a unique and special player, and is a game-changing guy. I mean, you won't find a guy I guess you can, but that guy, all he cared about was winning. That guy was on pace to make ridiculous amounts of money. He was doing ridiculous things, and all he cared about was winning. And I think what separates him, and this is the story I told people a lot, is, he started off last year not playing awesome, and now Matt Shaw's not awesome as 300 with 5 homers in the first month. So let's put that in perspective. It's not like the freak that he has the ability to be. And turned it on. It was late March. He gets that thing rolling. And I remember talking to him, and I said, Matty, help me coach the next generation of dudes here. Like, you're in your draft year. There's a lot of hype around you. Were just a Cape player of the year, yada, yada, yada. How have you been able to take a mediocre start and not let that spiral you down the tube? Because that's what a lot of people do in their draft year. They put all this pressure on. They do this, they do that. And he looked at me and he goes, Coach, it doesn't matter if I'm a first rounder or a 10th rounder. I'm going to play in the big leagues anyway, and that's the only thing that's my goal. And he didn't mean that arrogantly. That's just genuinely in his soul what he knew. He knew what his future was going to hold, and that's what makes him special. And I think when you have a guy like that in the locker room, whether he's your best friend that you want to go hang out with on Friday night or not, there's a respect and there's an appreciation for what that guy brings to your program, both from coaches and teammates alike. And, like I said, I've got to coach some special kids. There was multiple special kids on those last year's teams. But Matt Shaw's combination of mentality, ability, and just dedication to what his long-term goals are. I mean, that's what grit is, right? We talk about grit around here a lot, like passion and perseverance for long-term goals. That guy had that in spades, and that's what's going to make him a big leaguer here real soon. And he's a special kid, a great family. I wish I could say I coached Matt Shaw. I just kind of hung out and watched him do his thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say the mindset and the work ethic. It reminds me a lot of Alex Gordon with the Kansas City Royals, right? That guy showed up, same routine every day, same personality in the clubhouse. He was coming in to try to win a championship, to try to win baseball games, and everybody in that clubhouse looked up to him. Even though he wasn't the most vocal leader, he was kind of like the silent leader who everybody looked up to because he had that routine.
No question.
Yeah. I think the last question I have for you is what matchup, now that you're in the SEC, what matchup are you looking forward to most in 2024?
Oh man, opening weekend against Manhattan,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
No, it'll be fun. I mean, shoot, we got a taste that I made the. It ended up working out well for us because we played really well. But I learned really quickly last Friday what that Auburn Alabama matchup looks like. I mean, a lot of people care about that, and as we walk into this, we talk about it. Man, we want to be great in our state, just like they want to be great in the state. And you have these rivalries all around. Like, I think that's kind of the natural rivalry that you look at is I think will be compared to the people 3 hours down the road quite a bit. And we've got to do a good job of competing against them on the recruiting front, on the baseball field, and everything. But man, I'm just excited to experience the league. It's funny that for years, you hear the slogan in the SEC, it just means more. And for years, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, this is stupid. It doesn't matter. It's baseball. It's 60-foot bases or 60-foot, 90-foot bases. All this, like, that was kind of my thing because that's what it had to be, right? I was in the Big Ten. I was in the ACC, whatever it was, and but when you get down here, it does. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. Like, the care of people in Tuscaloosa, the care of people just in the SEC for their sports programs is just unlike anything I've ever seen, and I think there's some accountability that comes through that. Like, I was sitting getting my hair cut the other day, and I lived in Annapolis when we were in Maryland. Great town, great spot, loved it. About 40 minutes from campus. And I think one time in 11 years that I have somebody come up and say, "Hey, you're the baseball coach, right?" I'm sitting getting my hair cut the other day, and somebody comes up and is like, "Hey, welcome to Tuscaloosa, coach." And that's happened several times through here. And my son, who's 7, thinks it's the coolest thing ever. But I told him, I was like, "Buddy, we hadn't played a game yet, and they all think I'm really good at what I do." Like, if we go 0-5 or we lose a big weekend, they're going to recognize me, but they ain't going to have good things to say about me.
Yeah.
We have to understand that. And so it is, but it's just been neat. I'm just excited to go out and compete with this group. I mean, the reality is it is the same thing. We have to be us. This league isn't going to change who we are. This league's not going to change how we do things. It's going to always be about the people. It's always going to be about gritty, tough kids that play the game the right way. And we have to create that identity for ourselves. We've just kind of started that process doing that, but we have to continue to create that. And man, I just believe that stands up. And I don't think it matters who you're playing, where you're playing. If you can train that and believe that and have good enough players within that, you've got a fighting chance. And that's who we're going to be. That's the identity we want to create here. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to go to the LSUs and the Vanderbilts and the Mississippi States and the Ole Misses, the South Carolinas, the Floridas. Like, those are all, as I'm saying those out loud, I'm like, good gracious, there's not a break in there anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's what you want, right? I think true competitors, I think that's why so many players want to play in this league. I think that's why so many coaches want to coach in this league is you want to stack yourself up against the best of the best. And I think that's the competitor in you. And so we're looking forward to getting after it. Talk to me about 6 months. I might sing a different tune, but we're excited to get going with it. Fall's been awesome. We got about 2.5 weeks left. We need to finish it up the right way. But proud of the kids, and man, I'm loving being in Tuscaloosa right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. We know you're busy and have such a busy schedule, especially with things kicking off in the fall. And we're wishing you nothing but the best come out this upcoming season.
Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.